Hi, welcome to this video. Doug Barry here. I appreciate you being with me. 5 critical things that you and I should be doing right now without fail before everything hits the fan. What do I mean by before everything hits the fan? We'll talk about that in just a moment. But before we get into any of this, before we get started, I want to thank the patrons out there who are supporting this work. You patrons have been amazing. I can't thank you enough. You are in my daily prayers. Your contribution, your support is helping me get this message out. And I thank you very much for that. If anybody's interested in becoming a patron, click the link in the description below. Go on out, pray about it, take a look at it, and see if you want to support this work. And if you do, I can't thank you enough for it already. So appreciate you considering that. 5 critical things, though, you and I should be doing. Let's get right into them. Before everything hits the fan, what do I mean by hitting the fan? First of all, before everything hits the fan could mean anything from a natural disaster, which we know we have to deal with in this world. Fires, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, and so forth. Blizzards, these things happen. We also have to deal with political problems. We see, especially right now, we see the political upheaval going on in our country and other places of the world. Governments that can become a little overreaching, socialists, communists, and so forth. We also have to deal with upheaval in the streets. We have to deal with riots. We see this happening for the last several months in America. How many months now? We've seen cities be lit up on fire, riots, protests, looting. So we know that these things can hit the fan at any moment. We have to be aware of that, not afraid. Don't get me wrong. We shouldn't worry, but we do need to be concerned and aware of this. That's the smart thing, the responsible thing, the moral thing to do. But another area where we have to be aware of things hitting the fan is really just the day we die. And every single one of us is going to die. We will die, we'll stand before God, and we'll be judged. And we will be held accountable for everything in this world, everything. Everything said, everything thought, everything done, everything not done. We will stand before God and have to give an account. And then we're going to spend eternity in heaven or hell. We're going to be with God forever in heaven, where most people think that's where they're going. No matter what they do, they just think, yeah, we're going to heaven. Gospels don't talk that way. So be careful about that. We need to be reading the Gospels and know what our Lord says about that road to heaven being narrow and very few even finding it, and it's difficult. And the road to hell is wide and many are on it and it's easy. So we have to be aware of that, because when that moment, when everything hits the fan for us and we die and stand before God, we can turn nothing around. Everything is done. We're sealed at that moment, meaning that we are either in the state of grace or not, state of sanctifying grace or not, which is the first of the 5 critical things you and I should be doing right now without fail before everything hits the fan, regardless of what that hitting the fan is. Number 1, get your soul right with God. Let's get the soul right with God. Make sure that we are in the state of sanctifying grace. If we're not in the state of sanctifying grace, get that taken care of right away, ASAP. Get to the sacrament of confession. We lose sanctifying grace. Let me back up. We receive sanctifying grace at baptism. We become a child of God, original sins washed away, and that sanctifying grace, that amazing, incredible, mysterious share of God's life is in us. And then we lose it through committing a mortal sin. 3 conditions for a mortal sin: grave matter, full knowledge, full consent. Something that is a grave matter, something we do with full knowledge, and we do it with full consent. That constitutes a mortal sin. We lose sanctifying grace. We need to gain that back through the sacrament of confession. So number 1, most critical thing, get the soul right with God. Get to the sacrament of confession. Get that soul back in the state of grace. And if it's in the state of grace, fight for it. Get to confession regularly, every couple weeks at least, every month minimum. If not every week, they say St. John Paul II went every day. So again, get the soul right with God. Get in the state of sanctifying grace. Fight to preserve and protect that state of sanctifying grace. Prayer, sacraments, of course, read scripture, lives of the saints. I always encourage, and if you out there who know me know, I encourage daily rosary, of course. Well, I don't encourage it. Blessed Mother talks about that all the time. The need for us to pray the rosary daily. These are the ways that we fight for our souls, because we don't know when we're going to die. This may be my last video. We never know. We all have this mindset, most of us at least, that we're going to go on. We've got time. We think we have time. We think we have time when it comes to the spiritual and the physical preparing. We should be better prepared spiritually so that whenever we stand before God, in that moment when everything hits the fan, we can stand before God with a clear conscience and hear him say to us, "Well done, good and faithful servant." So that's number 1. Get the soul right with God. Get it in that state of sanctifying grace. Preserve it, fight for it, strengthen it. Number 2, most critical thing that we need to be doing right now, should be doing right now before everything hits the fan, is heal relationships in this world with others. If you're having a hard time in your marriage, work on it. Work on it. Humble yourself. Ask for forgiveness where you need to. Give forgiveness where you need to. Take the steps necessary to heal those relationships, be it a marriage, maybe it's brother-sister, sibling situation, whatever it is. Maybe it's with your neighbor, whatever, whoever. Try your best. If you've got those situations that need to be healed where you primarily have to ask for forgiveness, at least ask for forgiveness. Maybe it's going to be through an email, a letter, a phone call, face-to-face conversation. The point is, you want to heal those wounds. You want to get everything right because that helps that first critical thing, getting our soul right with God, is making sure we're doing whatever we can to heal situations here in this world. But especially because Christ is in everyone and we need to see Christ in everyone to the best of our ability. All right. So number 2, most critical thing to do, heal relationships, work on relationships, friendships, work on your marriage, work on your family, brother, sister, parent, child, whatever it may be. Work on it, heal it, strengthen it. Number 3, most critical thing to do right now before everything hits the fan, start building alliances with other people. Start building friendships and alliances with other people that are like-minded, morally grounded, like-minded, and able to work together in case a crisis on a natural level really devastates your region, your area, your life. Could be a flood, could be a fire. Okay, could be some sort of natural disaster, could be some sort of political move that leaves our country or a country in disarray. You need people to work with. You need alliances with other people. These conversations are hard to have for some people. To sit down and say, hey, make a phone call. Hey, Susan and Bill, you want to come over? I want to hang out and have a conversation with me and my wife on something here. Yeah. Hey, yeah, come on over. Go have something to eat and we'll talk, okay? And sit down. Hey, so what do you think if everything goes crazy and the government collapses and there is some sort of major coup against the president and we got all this kind of thing and all of a sudden a food supply chain is cut off and we need to work together to survive. Can we do this? Now, they may look at you like you got 3 heads and tinfoil hats on all of them. But I think if you're this far into the video, you know that when it comes to preparing spiritually and physically, which is what Battle Ready is all about, being better prepared, body, mind, and soul, you see the signs of the times. I'm sure you do. Most people do. A lot of people just live in a normalcy bias world where they don't want to pay attention to them. They don't want to respond to them. But we all see what's going on. We all know that there's things that are very volatile right now in our society and in our world. We need to be better prepared, but we need to have alliances with other people because we're going to need other people. There are a lot of preppers out there who think, I'm going to go out, live on my own in the mountains and the hills, in my underground bunker, and we'll just survive it on my own. Yeah, that's possible. It's not likely, especially if you're in the city, especially if you're in a big community. Not everybody can run out to the woods and hide, especially with certain weather conditions, geographically, where you live, location, and so forth. It's not feasible for many people. You're going to have to work with other people. Build alliances now. Start having the conversations. Start having the meetings with friends. Maybe it's from your local parish. Maybe it's your neighborhood. Maybe it's just a group of friends you know and you hang out with. And have the conversations about provisions and about skill. Who can bring what to the table? How can you work together? Not just to survive. Let's stop thinking about just surviving a crisis. All right? As prepping type individuals out there, which we all should be, St. Joseph of the Old Testament was a prepper. The 7 years of famine, the 7 years of plentiful harvest, when they loaded up 7 years of grain and got ready for the 7 years of famine, that's called prepping. Christ speaks of this to his disciples when he sends them out, and he sends them out with a bag, all right, which means they're carrying provisions of some sort in that bag. He talks about a purse of some sort, something to hold money, so they need something to barter or work with others. They need funds of some sort. He says they're wearing sandals and they got a bag and they got a purse or some wallet of some sort. And he says, if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. So he even tells them to be armed. So the idea of prepping, if we're going to be, true preppers, we have to be thinking that this is something that even is rooted in Scripture. We need to be thinking about who we're going to work with in order to get this done right, get it done well, and be able to not just survive, but be able to bring the light of Christ and the truth to other areas of society and other areas of the community. So it's not just about surviving a crisis. It's about building for Christ, for Jesus, the right way, and helping people understand truth, light, goodness, holiness, and so forth. So we've got to build those alliances. We've got to get those things in place. Fourth, most critical thing that we should be doing right now, again, without fail, not wasting any time before everything hits the fan, is start developing provisions. Start adding to your provisions. Start adding to your stockpile of food, water, medical, self-defense, and also how you're going to handle shelter. Right? 5 key things. We talk about this in our Battle Ready Emergency Preparedness course. Be a link in the description below if you want to check that out. But these 5 key things, shelter, water, food, medical, and defense, are critical and essential for every human being on this planet. So you've got to start developing your stockpile, your basement, your closet, your room of gear and provisions in order to be able to cover these 5 key things. And again, not just for yourself, but for those that God has entrusted to your care, and maybe even to help others in community. So starting to put these things together is important. Don't forget, in the description below, we have that link. Click that link and go get your free download, a checklist for both the spiritual and temporal preparedness. Things that we should be doing, could be doing, would be incredibly helpful to do to be spiritually and physically prepared. So again, fourth most critical thing is start developing your provisions. Start adding to your list of those key items that are necessary to survive and grow and thrive in a physical way. All right. Also helps psychologically, emotionally, which affects the spiritual. You cannot separate these out. We're built this way by God. Fifth and final most critical thing to do right now without fail, wasting no time before everything hits the fan, is start developing skill. Start developing your skills. Skills in gardening, skills in food preparation, especially in time of crisis, skills in repairing things. Being able to work with your hands is critical. It's important, especially if there's a crisis of some sort. Being able to work with your hands to repair something, build something, develop something, that's pretty important to have those types of skills. Also, skills of self-defense, protection, whether it's hand-to-hand, which I think is important. Everybody should have somebody hand-to-hand, how to protect and defend. Firearms, basic firearm training as well. A lot of this is in our emergency preparedness course, BREP for short. Click the link below, go on out, take a look at that. But we need to develop the skills in order to use the gear, the equipment that we have, all right, in order to be able to help our community, help society, and not just survive, but thrive. So these 5 critical things, so important right now. Get our souls right with God. Make our relationships better. Heal the relationships where you can. And of course, it goes both ways. You can tell somebody you're sorry, they got to forgive. Someone can tell you they're sorry, you have to forgive. We have to be able to go both ways with that. So heal the relationships, number 2. 3, make sure that you're building alliances with other people, because you're going to need other people. They're going to need you. You got to be able to work together. But those conversations should be had now. All right, there's enough signs of the times, all right, to get the conversation started. It's not that hard to get it started. 4th, make sure you are adding to your list of provisions. Start getting the gear, the equipment, the food, extra water, medical, self-defense, ideas for shelter, and so forth. We have all of this in our BREP course, whole manuals on this, on all this sort of stuff. And 5, make sure you are developing your skills so you can use that gear the right way, and other things that your skills will be able to provide. It could be medical skills. It could be herbs, growing herbs being used for medicinal purposes if you can't get to a pharmacy or hospitals are shut down, depending on the crisis. So there's a whole host of things we'll get into more in future videos, skill-wise, that would be great to develop to be able to handle whatever crisis may come your way when everything hits the fan. All right, hey, I want to thank you very much for spending time with me. Again, thanks to the patrons out there, and I want to encourage you all to go check out our Battle Ready gear page, and we got some great t-shirts and items out there. All that also supports our ministry, what we're trying to do here as well. And don't forget, click that link below, go on out, get that free download. It's free download on the spiritual and the temporal checklists to help start putting things more clearly in line and in mind to move forward and get these things done, all right? And again, don't forget to check out, if you want, the link below to the Battle Ready Emergency Preparedness course. All right, God bless you all and strengthen you for the fight. I look forward to seeing you again soon.